So another example of C-sharp variables. So in our instructions, we're creating an app with variables to represent current salaries for 3 employees, assign values to the variables, display explanatory text next to your salary for each employee. Yeah, okay. Um, Instead of do this inside of MindTap, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start up Visual Studio. And I'm going to create a new project. File, new project. And I'm going to make a Visual C# console application, .NET Core, .NET Framework. At this time, it doesn't really matter that much. I'm going to give it a new name. I think this one was called Projected Raises. I'm going to leave the solution name the same as the project name. For what we're doing, we don't really need different names for each one of those, but I think the author likes you to have different names for each one. Okay. C# console application, and create a directory for this. So in my repo here, it's going to create a folder called Project Raises. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that. Okay, so it created a coding stub for me. It put some of the code in for me already. The author uses this using statement. System.console. And what that does is it eliminates the need for us to type in for each statement system.console. So in this particular case, instead of typing system.console .writeLine, instead of typing that in each time, I can just type in WriteLine. I can get rid of this part right here. So this using statement that the author has us put in our programs lets us save some time. Okay, so I'm going to go look at the exercise I'm going to be working with. So Project Raises. So this is our class called Project Raises. They already give us this to start off with. You notice that this class, the word class just means this is a way to organize your code. You notice that here's the beginning of the class, and here this closing bracket is the end of the class. Inside of here, there's something with these parentheses on it, and this is called a main method. We'll look at static and void later, but this is the main method. This is where, when the program runs, it starts right here. So this is where I'm going to put my code starting off. And so it says a named constant, so it means I need to type in const, and then it's going to be 4% raise. I'm a percent is a fractional value, so I'm going to use a double data type. You might be tempted to use an integer data type, but or a whole number, but we're going to be calculating these in fractional values, or a number with a decimal place after it. Okay, and since it's a constant, I'm going to call it raise. It can really be any descriptive legal name that you want, and since it's a constant, I need to assign a value to it. So a 4% is really 0.04. Okay. So if you were to multiply that by 100, it would be 4. Okay, let's see what else they want. And they want also declare variables to represent the current salaries for 3 employees. Okay. And again, since I started off with doubles, I might as well go ahead and continue on with it. So double data type for, and let's call this salary 1, and salary 2, and you notice I can separate each one of these. Instead of putting double salary 1 and then double salary 2 and double salary 3, I can separate these with commas. Okay. And then I need, and I can do it this way. So salary 1, I can assign an amount to it. 2,500, 3,800, and 5,100. Okay. And I don't want to put commas in here, so employee 1, salary of 2,500. Now, instead of separating these, what I can do is I can put this all into this one statement and save a little bit of space. So assign, which is equal sign 2,500, no commas in there, and make sure I've got a comma separating that. The next one was 25,000. The next one is 38,000. And the last one is 51,000. I hope they're not doing the same job. Okay. All right. Okay, and let's see what else we've got. And then we're going to okay, so the next, I'm going to copy this. Next year's salary for the first employee. I'm going to copy this and put this into a right line statement. I'm going to put it between double quotes because it's a literal string. Okay, right. Well, now's a good time to move over to Visual Studio. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut this out of here. Go to Visual Studio, and in Visual Studio, I'm going to paste it in there. Okay. And it doesn't like something. What does it not like? Quick actions. Right line does not exist in the current context. Oh, because it's not right line. I've got it spelled wrong. That's the reason I want to use Visual Studio. Helps me out on this. Okay, still got a red squiggly line. I need a semicolon at the end of this. Okay, and green squiggly lines means I've created this variable, I've even assigned a value to it, but I'm not using it anywhere, I'm not displaying it or using it in a calculation anywhere in the program, so I'm going to change that. Alright, let's, tell you what, let's create a variable for each one of the 3 employees. Double data type. This is for Joe, and this is the salary that Joe will be getting next year. And since it's a variable, Joe is a variable, I'm going to put it in lowercase. Okay, so next year Joe will get his salary 1, but he will get, in addition to that, a raise, and his raise will be his current salary. I'm going to put this in parentheses just to be safe. Will be his current salary 1, times the amount of the raise. There it is. Okay. And I'm going to do that for the other 2. Do this one and do that one. And so this is Joe. And this is John. And this is Mary. Okay. And this is going to be salary 2. Salary 2. Salary 3. Salary 3. Okay. So there we have their salary for next year, which is their current salary plus, and what's in parentheses is that 4% raise. Okay. And you can use a calculator to do that. So next year the salary for the first employee will be, and then, it wants a dollar sign in here. A couple ways to do this. Is to, let's do it the traditional way. Okay, I'm going to replace this actual number with a placeholder, curly braces, and since this is the first placeholder, computers start counting by 0 and put a 0 in here. And then after the double quotes, I'm going to comma in here and say that the first salary is for Joe. Okay. They had a dollar sign in here. What I could do is I could put a dollar sign right here, and then whatever number comes out. But if I want to format this a little so that it looks a little better, what I can do is that I can change this salary. Right now, Joe, let me go ahead and run this. I'm going to run this and make sure this works okay. Debug, start without debugging. And it says next year's salary for the first employee will be $2,600. So let me see if I can scroll down to that. Okay, so I said write a line to this console window, whatever's between these double quotes. And what's between these double quotes is next year's salary for the first employee, and then I've got a little placeholder here which is replaced by whatever's been stored in the memory location called Joe. And that was 2,600. Okay. Okay. So instead of just having a plain old 2,600, what I can do is that I'm going to put a period after Joe. And once I do, I've got some choices here. One of these is convert this number into a string, and there's a reason why I want to do that. When you're displaying information, you usually or just about always want to display the information on the screen as a string instead of a number. Now, 2600 is a number, but it can also be a string. And I know that's confusing, but that's something you're going to need to read up on. Okay, but for toString, here's what I want to do. I'm going to change it to a string, but I'm going to format it for currency. Okay. I'm going to run this again. Debug, start without debugging. And this time when it pops up, it will say, and it formats it for currency. So it puts the $sign in there for me, puts a comma in there for me, decimal place, and 2 places after the decimal. Okay. So what I can do is that I can do that for each one of these. So what if I just copy this 3 times, copy this twice, copy it once and paste it twice, 1, 2, and this one I change to John, and this one I change to Mary. Now, instead of the first employee, this is going to be second, and this is going to be third, or I could put their actual names in there. Okay, debug, start debugging, debug, start without debugging. And there I have the format for each one of those. Okay, okay. So, if I have that the way I want, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this back into my MindTap editor. Okay, Control C, back into MindTap, go here, tap over a bit. Hopefully, let's see if it runs. And it looks like it ran okay. Well, let's see if this is what they wanted. I'm going to go here and run checks. 83% correct salaries output. Okay, well, I've got something to fix on the salaries, so I'll have to track down and see what that was. Okay, but I'm going to leave that here. Go ahead and finish up. So that gives you a little bit of working with variables.